this ideal of beauty that we have that is so small and limited, it is self-destructive to us. It is holding us back. I see it every single day. It stops women from applying for the jobs that they want, for putting themselves out there to land in the relationship that they crave. It stops them from speaking up amongst friends and saying what's truly on their heart. It is not a small thing.
Welcome, Badass Manifester. I am so glad you are here. I'm your host and head coach, Ashley Gordon, master mindset and manifestation biz expert, founder of the quantum coaching certification, and multiple six-figure entrepreneur obsessed with empowering you to create quantum leaps in your energy, your life, and your business. This is the show to help you make magic your everyday normal, where the ripple effect is real and the guest experts are world class. My mission is to power your conscious and subconscious mind with manifestation teachings, business tools, and coaching techniques to put your potential into action. Consider this your weekly up level. Are you ready for quantum transformation? Let's do this. Welcome back to the Badass Manifester podcast, you guys. Another week, another amazing episode. Here we go. I have an amazing guest today. Her name is Erin Treloar, and she has gone from anorexic teen to celebrity health coach, and she is the founder of Raw Beauty Co. And she's helping women live healthier, more aligned lives, building on the foundation of self-love. And she has so many amazing tips to share. She has an incredible program that helps transform just all of her clients' relationships with food, their body. And she has 4 pillars that she works off of, which we'll dive into today as well. So if you want to learn more about how to really become the most well version of yourself, we're going to dive into Erins Story, but we're also going to dive into how to navigate in a world where everything seems so toxic, like all of our products, all like just different wellness procedures, different medical procedures, and like how to bridge the gap between feeling like you have to be perfect in everything that you do to feeling like you're failing because you're not eating organic every single day. So we're going to dive into all these nitty-gritty things and how there is a happy medium, and Erin is going to show us the way. So welcome to the show.
Oh, thank you so much for that introduction. It's always so crazy when other people introduce you, and I feel like everyone should have the honor of doing a show or sitting down and having a friend introduce them in the way that you just did, because we all have these like self-doubts and limiting beliefs about ourselves and moments where we're like, I don't know what the hell I'm doing. And to hear somebody else sort of share a snippet of your life path, you're like, oh, maybe I do have a couple things figured out. I'm actually doing okay.
I'm doing good. Totally. I feel that every time I get introduced to. So I think everyone ask someone to introduce you, like write out your accomplishments and then have someone read them back to you. That's a good exercise.
That is a great exercise. And do it for your friend as well. Cheer one another on.
Right. Give it back to each other.
Yeah.
So cool. So welcome. I'm excited for everyone to hear about you, your journey. You have such an incredible mission, and I would love to hear and have you share a little bit about, what your journey has been like from being anorexic and going down that path of not being your most aligned, like healthy self, to now being who you are in the world and helping so many people.
Okay. Well, there has been so much that has happened in my life since having an eating disorder and struggling. I was 16 years old when I was diagnosed with anorexia, and I was in high school. I had a really great upbringing and life. There was no major trauma, but like so many women and girls, I at the time was getting like 17 and YM magazine delivered to my door and looking at these models and thinking that they had everything that I could have dreamed of having as a young girl. And we're taught from a very young age that our beauty and the way that we look is the most important thing about us as women. And so I started to try to figure out how to get as close to that beauty ideal as possible. And in the 90s, aging myself here, but whatever. The look was like Kate Moss and Nicole Richie and these girls who were so thin. And it was like, as small as you could be, the better, or the smaller you could be, the better. And so I was at the time doing a lot of dance and looking at myself in the mirror all day. And it's all about, doing these moves perfectly and looking perfectly. And so I started following the tips that I was getting. Remember, like on the cover of magazines, it used to be like, lose 3 pounds in 3 days, or get a 6-pack with these 6 exercises constantly. Right.
Yes.
So,
and magazines were like the thing back then. Like
magazines were everything.
They were everything. Yeah.
Now I feel more worried for like my own daughter and teenagers, because I realize that they're not just getting this monthly magazine delivered to their door. It is in the palm of their hands every single day. And they're getting like 10 times more images, and there's filters and there's editing, and like, it's just next level now.
And it can't be controlled. It's like, it's unstoppable.
It's unstoppable. It is, we have a task at hand in regards to navigating these images. And so I think back to my 16-year-old self. And at that stage, there's just this one huge desire, and that is to fit in and to belong and to be accepted. And most teenagers feel that same way. So I followed all of these tips, and I thought what I was doing was just being healthier. I really, truly was like, I'm just going to do the things that I'm being told to do in order to be really healthy. And that's a good thing, right? But very quickly, what started out as trying to be healthy slipped into an eating disorder. And this is so common. So many of the practices that we consider health and wellness today are rooted in diet culture and fat phobia, and really fall on the line of disordered eating and eating disorders. And so very quickly we can go from just thinking about food or counting macros or weighing ourselves every day into this mindset where we never feel good enough, where we're always thinking about food, where I work with so many women who have lost the weight, and they're like, I lost the weight that I thought I needed to lose in order to be happy. And it still wasn't enough. Like, then I felt trapped in trying to keep this body, or that I could just lose that extra little bit more, or that I still couldn't eat because what if I gained the weight back? So I ended up in the hospital. I was under, I won't actually say the weight because that can be very triggering for people, but my period had stopped. I was unable to think. I went from straight A's in school to having to drop out of classes because I couldn't focus. I was wearing 2 pairs of pants to school. It was awful. And for anyone who's like, well, what, you hear like, why don't you just eat a burger, or just, you're being ridiculous. Like, just eat something. The eating disorder voice is so loud in your head that there's no ability to rationalize. And usually when you have an eating disorder as well, chemically, your body is now off because you haven't been consuming enough. And this doesn't have a look. Like, people don't have to be super skinny to be struggling with this type of mindset or these types of worries, which is a common misconception, is that like, you have to be a certain size to be considered having an eating disorder. So I came out of the hospital, I was at a healthier weight, but I still was struggling with my relationship with food a little bit, because when you go into the hospital, they give you this menu and meal plan that you're supposed to follow. They're not really teaching you how to eat intuitively. They're not necessarily giving you the skill set to figure out how to navigate food in this world where we're given so many rules around it, where there's so much rigidity around it, and where there's all these labels of what is good and bad and right and wrong. So I came back out into the world and I followed my meal plan for a bit, but then I started to find myself in this pattern of, again, eating really healthy during the day. And except this time I would binge at night in secret. I would eat like everything I could get my hands on. It kind of felt like I was blacking out almost. And then I would feel so much shame and like so much regret and so much disgust for my body. I would then wake up the next day and be like, okay, I have to work off what I ate last night. I've got to go to the gym. I have to run further. And I'm back to eating like iceberg lettuce salads and oatmeal for breakfast and just trying to control everything. So at the same time, as coming out of the hospital, I'd recognized that one of the main things that have perpetuated this eating disorder were these images in magazines, these images of perfection and one body type. And so I started to think about what it would look like to have a space online where there were gorgeous images of women, but that were more raw. So I started Raw Beauty Co. and featured in the end over 200 women without photo editing, makeup, or filters, everywhere from Canada, the US, all the way to Africa, and had really honest conversations with women about their relationship with beauty and their body and self-love. And through those conversations, I did so much healing myself. It completely healed my fear of weight because it changed the way that I saw women and understood the pressures that were being placed on us and the power of marketing and media. I also started working with a life coach myself. And in working with her, I learned some tools and strategies that really supported me in healing my relationship with food, which was so strange because I was like, you're not necessarily somebody who works with people with disordered eating, but yet her tools and tactics helped support me in working through the anxiety that I was always feeling around food, in identifying very clearly what my vision was for my best self. Like, okay, you're in this place in life, you're living in this basement suite, you're working at a restaurant, you're drinking a lot, you're paycheck to paycheck, you're single, dating all the wrong guys, like in a little bit of a downward spiral. Where is it that you want to be? Right? Where do you want to take your life? And I made this vision board that is always by my side, that I have carried with me for now almost 15 years. My husband, every time we move, he's like, is that thing really coming with us? I'm like, oh, you better believe it is, because everything on that board has since come to fruition. And I think for me, creating that vision of where I wanted to be was so pivotal. And I'd spent so much time up to that point in therapy, working on through like, what issues did you have in the past? And how are you feeling right now? I needed something bigger to believe in. And that gave me a bit of an anchor or guide to start making decisions and choices from, like, as I was moving through life. So long story short, we've got Raw Beauty Talks launched. I'm having all these conversations with women. After 2 years of doing that, I was like, I cannot have another conversation with a woman who hates her body and doesn't see how incredible she is without tools to properly support her in moving forward. So I took a year, I did my health coaching certification. I paired up with a registered dietitian who focuses on intuitive eating and a psychologist who works on body image. And we created my program that I now run called the Raw Beauty Reset, which is based on the 4 pillars of nourishment, movement, mindset, and self-love. And we've had almost 600 women go through it in the last year.
Wow. What a journey, right?
I mean, that's just a really quick piece of it. Somewhere in there, I had a couple of kids too, and I still struggle with anxiety, and we've moved like 500 times. But yeah, I mean, all of us have these incredible stories when we start to put the pieces together. It's really interesting.
It really is. And how it all connects and like leads you to where you're going, what you're creating, and the ripple effect of what you've been through has been massive. And I think that, like you said, like we all have the potential for that. I believe that 100%. We all have the potential for that ripple effect. So, wow. Thank you for sharing that. And I love the name Raw Beauty Talks. Like, I feel like it's so awesome to like see someone in their raw beauty. And I think once people start to do some inner work, I mean, I found that I was able to see way more beauty in everyone around me, like looking at anyone, no matter what they look like, no matter what their shape, size, color, whatever. I'm like, wow, you are beautiful. Like you are human. Like there's a unique beauty in everyone. It's so cool.
Really, truly is. And it's also so important when you're on your own social media feed to really take ownership of following different people in different body types, because I don't think my view of beauty was as expansive as it is right now when I started Raw Beauty Co. Because my brain had been trained to only find one thing beautiful. And it had been trained to think of cellulite as being gross. So when I saw cellulite on my own body, I was like, this is disgusting. I need the cream. I need the roller thing. I need to get rid of this. Now I see it truly, completely differently, but it has taken seeing so many different images of women and also knowing women at such a deeper level to create a much more expansive view of beauty. And some people may be like, well, why is that even important? It's everything. It's the way that you see the world and yourself. It's where we gain confidence and self-esteem. It's how we connect to others. This ideal of beauty that we have that is so small and limited, it is self-destructive to us. It is holding us back. I see it every single day. It stops women from applying for the jobs that they want, for putting themselves out there to land in the relationship that they crave. It stops them from speaking up amongst friends and saying what's truly on their heart. It is not a small thing. It's not a little deal. And it is something that is, I believe, really holding women back at a much greater level than we even acknowledge. And so I think nobody else is going to do this work for us. Unfortunately, we kind of have to take ownership of doing the work ourselves. And that starts by looking inward and also looking at the media that we're consuming and how that impacts us.
It's wild how we've been so programmed by the media to think beauty is just one way.
Yeah.
When everybody looks so different, like it's mind boggling. It's like, who made this shit up? I don't know. Like, it's just like it's
men.
Like, yeah, you're right. You're right. Men.
And I love men. And I think that they're incredible, but also over the years, they have had some role in like creating this ideal of what beauty is and what a woman should be. And obviously that's not all men. And that's not how like most men think today, but also all men and women are swimming in this soup of beauty ideal BS.
Mm-hmm.
And so we're all impacted by it at some level, including myself. Like I started this company called Raw Beauty Co. and have seen so many women and talked to so many women and coached so many women on this. And yet I still go and get my hair colored and I've gotten Botox twice. And I've, like I still am impacted by these pressures that are placed on us and these ideals and have moments myself where I'm like, I'm freaking like, it feels like a lot. So none of us are immune to it. And, I also want to state as well, because there was a bit of a misconception when I started the company that it was all about being anti-makeup or anti-beauty or, like anything in that industry, which doesn't really align or resonate for me. It was always about going deeper than skin level with women, like really getting to know their heart. And it was super powerful, the act of stripping away brand names and makeup and labels, because it left women that much more vulnerable and the conversations went that much more deep. And so that's what it's really about. It's not about saying like, you're right or you're wrong, or, if you've breast implants, you're not part of this community. Absolutely not. Everybody is welcome. It's all about just taking things deeper than our beauty, which we are so much deeper than that.
So much deeper. Like if we only knew, we can't even conceive what we actually are,
Yeah.
So I think like there's great points in there of like, being like being perfect, like looking perfect, all of that. And feeling like, okay, if I'm not matching up to this like ideal, image that we have been programmed to believe that we have to match up to it. Now I think it's also shifting into, what we're doing, like what our products are and like making sure that we're doing all that perfectly. Like, like the app Think Dirty, like making sure everything's 100% clean and you're eating 100% organic. And like, I know I put that on myself because I want to, maximize my health, and wellness and all of that. And like, we can't be 100% perfect all the time. Like that's not even the right word, but I would love for you to speak on like balancing that out and like just speaking to, I feel like it's an all or nothing mentality when it comes to beauty, but it's also an all or nothing mentality when it comes to like how you're treating yourself?
Yeah, such a great question and an important topic. I have thought a lot about this. When I had my first baby, my son, I was on that Think Dirty app like nobody's business. Every single product, sunscreen, like my makeup, everything. I was tracking it all. And I found it stressful because we use so many products throughout the day. When you think about like shampoo, conditioner, body wash, anything you're putting on your face, your sunscreens, your cleaning products, like there's just a lot that goes into this. So one, it was super expensive. And a lot of the products I was like, 95% of people can't actually afford this. So now they're feeling pressure and stress on the fact that they can't hit all of these like health and wellness targets that have been set when this isn't really accessible to a lot of people, including myself. So, I had to really step back. And I think it's so important truly in health and wellness to remember that one of the most important aspects of our health is reducing stress and just keeping a mindset that everything in moderation is totally okay. I think about my Nana a lot. She lived until she was 92. She came over from England. She survived the war. She did not like vegetables. She ate Yorkshire puddings with gravy and roast beef at least once or twice a week. Every night she would have a glass of whiskey and 2 Pringles. I don't know why just the 2 Pringles, but
Just two.
Just two. Just 2. And she would watch hours of Jeopardy. And this is not a woman who is engaging in a lot of the typical health and wellness acts. Oh, I also forgot she smoked a pack a day. So she was kind of the epitome of somebody who's not following health and wellness strategies. However, she lived until she was 92 in her own home, totally with it until like everything just gave out. So you can do all of these health and wellness practices and engage in an hour of meditation every day and 30 minutes of breath work and 30 minutes of journaling. To me, that load that we put on ourselves feels incredibly stressful, especially in this season of life with 2 young kids and a business to run. So I'm all about really recognizing what are those key fundamental components of wellness that give you the most bang for your buck. And then let yourself off the hook for a lot of the other things. If you can do it here and there, great. But like we don't have 17 hours a day to commit to our self-care. That's not practical. And we're just stressing ourselves out by trying to do it all. So I really personally we have cinnamon buns in our house. We have the sunscreen that's all natural. And we also have like Sun Bum 2900. And sometimes the kids get sprayed with that, even though you're not supposed to use the spray. And it's just like, we got to let ourselves off the hook a little bit. Everyone's going to be okay. We can't control everything in life. And doing so, I think actually probably impacts our health and wellness more than just, like
mic drop. Like, love that so much. That resonates so much, especially to the people listening right now, including myself, who are going through, like, I want to be as healthy as possible, but I'm also doing IVF and I'm pumping hormones into my body, which I know is not the best. Right. But like, we have to give or take and allow it to, like you said, we just can't control everything. That's it.
Right? No. And I'm so glad that you mentioned that, because I think so many women going through IVF already have all this pressure and are already putting a lot on themselves.
Yeah.
It's a lot for the relationship. Like it's just a lot. The last thing that we need to be stressing about is, what am I putting into my body? Like you're trying to create a miracle here, focusing on that. And it's all good. I know for me, I've had moments where in navigating my own anxiety, I was really rooting into all of these self-care practices, like my meditation and my breath work and limiting caffeine, more recently limiting in the last year, I haven't had alcohol. And all of these are really supportive day to day to my health and wellness and to my anxiety. But after having my daughter, I ended up with postpartum anxiety about 8 months after she was born. I had debilitating anxiety and intrusive thoughts, and was basically in bed for 3 weeks, just focusing on my breath. And it was awful. It was awful. It was so hard for my husband. It was so hard for the kids. Like, it was devastating. Anyone who's gone through it knows how challenging that is. And I was prescribed anti-anxiety medication, and I was resistant to taking it. I was like, I just need to get outside, and I need to, eat well, and I need to meditate. But I couldn't do any of those things at that point. Like, I was so deep and dark in the hole that no meditation was getting me out of that. I ended up, after about 3 weeks, deciding to go on the medication, which took about 3 weeks to start really working. And it saved my life. There is no doubt about it. It was such an important learning moment for me to really understand that there is a place for both Eastern and Western medical practices. And when we use both of them or have access to both of them, that's when our health and wellness is really the most empowered. So it's been 3 years now, I still take my anti-anxiety medication, and I meditate, and I do cold plunging, and I don't drink alcohol. I really combine all of these practices together to support me in this time. And the medication is just one more tool in my toolbox that helps my brain chemicals stay steady in a way that those other things, couldn't necessarily support with in the moment. And I've grappled back and forth with how I feel about this. I'd be lying if I said, yeah, it's just that simple. Like, I think a lot of us struggle with the stigma around mental health and what that means. But at this point, I'm like, the most important thing is that I am able to show up for my kids. And then secondly, for the work that I'm doing, which gives me so much purpose and I have so much passion around it. If I have to take a little white pill every day for the rest of my life in order to be able to show up in this world, then that's what I'm going to do.
Wow. That is so incredibly insightful and helpful to hear, because I know that people struggle with that of like, what do I do? What is right? What is wrong? Like, how is this going to later impact me? Like, whatever the story is. And I think there's a lot of story of like all or nothing, Eastern, Western. And it just isn't always like that. It doesn't have to be black or white. It can be both. And I love that you're vulnerable and transparent about it. Like, yeah, you grapple with it. Like you've questioned it, whatever. And like, that's normal too. Ask questions. Questions are good.
Questions are so good. And I always have to remember as well, like, because my mind tends to be a bit more anxious, that I start overthinking things. And that's where the meditation for me is so important, in that it really allows me to just soften the thoughts a little bit, so that I can really hear my true self underneath all of that noise, so that I can really check in with my intuition or just take a break from all of it. And so I don't know, for me, a combination of all of it is important. And again, I'm all about what's going to get you the most bang for your buck. And so, and with all the women that I've worked with, and all of the most common things that I'm seeing people struggle with right now: anxiety, depression, struggling with their relationship with food, feeling tired, infertility. So often when you study the protocol for any of these things, the first things that are mentioned are like the most basic pillars of health and wellness that we know. And sometimes those get muddied around when there's so many practices that we quote unquote should be doing right now. But when you really come down to it, it's sleeping enough, drinking water, nourishing your body consistently with food. And it doesn't have to be perfect food, just like maybe try and get a few different colors in there throughout the day. But it's more important that you're eating. And to be honest, every 2 to 3 hours is ideal, including breakfast, consistently keeping those blood sugar levels as stable as you can. And then speaking kindly to yourself. as well. I really think our thoughts have so much power in regards to boosting our health and wellness. When you sleep, drink water, eat food consistently, and just work on navigating those thoughts, that alone sets a really strong foundation for our health and wellness. Everything else layers on top of that, as it fits in. But those are really the key fundamentals.
Thank you for saying that. I do agree. Like, it can get muddied as far as like just keeping it simple, right? We overcomplicate. That's just what we do as humans. We overcomplicate things. And yeah, it can be simpler. It can be simpler. And I loved what you said before about like stress, like really just eliminating stress as much as possible is, I feel like one of the secrets to life, because you're calming the nervous system. If you can calm the nervous system, your body's going to work really, really well.
Yes, absolutely. And when we're in that space of fight or flight, we've got cortisol and adrenaline rushing through our body. That's fine. Like a little bit of stress is totally okay. And we're built to handle that. It's when we have consistent, persistent stress that we start to notice more long-term effects. So I don't want anybody who's listening to this who's like, oh my God, I'm stressed all the time. Don't stress about your stress. Okay. But we can start to look at what are some things that we can shift or change to support us in that. And I personally am all about like little 5 or 10 minute wellness kicks right now that I can weave in throughout my day to support my stress levels. So things like doing 5-5-7 breathing, even with my eyes open while I'm sending emails. So breathing in for 5, holding your breath for 5, and then exhaling for 7. The elongated exhale is what signals to our body that we're actually calm. Even though there's 1,700 things on our to-do list and the kids are talking and we're applying for jobs and the holiday season is here, everything is okay. And we can do this 5-5-7 breathing while we're driving, while we're sitting at a dinner table, while we're cleaning the house. And it's a beautiful gift that we can give to our nervous system. Mm-hmm. I also always incorporate cold water into any of my showers. I do this every morning. Basically, I roll out of bed and I get into the shower. I start with warm water in the winter. I go straight to cold in the warmer months, but I start with warm water and then I flip the tap to cold. And in that moment, everything kind of constricts and you pull inward and it feels like you've lost your breath. And the practice is to find your breath again, really focusing on your exhale, and then start moving your arms around, like jog in space. You can spin around, making sure that the shower is hitting your chest and like ideally getting your head in. And I'll stay in the cold water for 30 seconds to 3 minutes. It is better than any coffee you can drink. Yep. I feel like my brain fog is lifted, mental clarity turned on. It's so good in regards to teaching you that you can do hard things, because before you turn that cold water on, this little voice comes into your head. Like, I don't want to do this. This is silly. Maybe I'll try this another time. Not today. And so we learn how to move past that voice of fear that is holding us back in other areas of life. So I always say it's like taking yourself to a mental gym and training your mindset to be able to stand up to that voice of fear that's holding you back. So I'll do cold showers. That's literally 30 seconds to 3 minutes. And you're incorporating it into something that a lot of us do already every day.
Right.
Wait, on that note. Yeah.
So, okay, go ahead. Keep going.
No, you could, what were you going to say?
I was just going to say, I know you had Wim Hof on your podcast and he's like amazing. Go listen to him on Erin's podcast. But like I did one of his workshops last year and I got into the cold plunge with my husband and I literally jumped out within like 20 seconds. And then I was like, no, I am going back in. But my body was like, you're getting out right now. Like you can't do this.
Yes.
And then something took over and it was just like, as soon as I got back in, I would like move past that fight or flight feeling. So I love what you just said.
Oh, it's crazy. And think about like all the moments in life where we jump out metaphorically, because of fear, when actually we could stay in, when we have the capacity to stay in. But sometimes in those moments, whatever life is handing us, whether it's that job opportunity or the relationship or a chance to say yes, whatever it is, in those moments, it can be a bit hard to navigate those fear-based thoughts that come up. So you can use the cold water as a way of practicing. Now, when I get into the shower, those thoughts don't come up for me anymore. It's just what I do. It's just how I show up. And so they do go away. Like our brain, it expands our sphere of what is possible for us and allows us to become more expansive and allows there to be more room for us to play in life with a bigger boundary. And that's amazing. I mean, the fact that you can have a 30-second cold shower and start to experience that, that's a no-brainer. It's a no-brainer. So the cold showers, then I always have water before anything else before I put anything else in my body. This is not a strategy to make me feel less hungry. I don't know, that stupid thing that we've all heard. It's like, if you're feeling hungry, have a glass of water. No, this is because it feels cleansing to my body. I am often moving too fast throughout the day and I forget to drink enough water. So it's like, I'm putting something in my body that I know is nourishing and supporting before I get my coffee, before anything else goes in my stomach.
I love water.
Love water. I love water.
Do you have like a preference for your water?
I like cool water, but not with ice. And I'm currently always carrying around my hydro jug because, as I said, I don't know. It's like, I'm too lazy to go fill up a cup consistently.
Yeah.
My hydro jugs, I think they're like a gallon or 2 gallons. And, I usually just drink it plain, like no lemon or anything.
Yeah.
And then in the evenings, because I'm not drinking right now, I will drink my water out of a wine glass. And I usually have like a sparkling water, like a bubbly or a La Croix or something like that.
That's awesome. I love making it fancy like that. I love that so much.
You just got to elevate it a little bit, right?
Totally. Wow. Yeah. Water. I remind my husband all the time. I'm like, he's like, I feel tired. I'm like, did you drink water today? No. Okay. You should probably drink some water.
It's the basics. Again, it's so important. So yeah, water first thing in the morning, that I have to have that before I get my coffee, and then the cold shower. I eat very consistently every 2 to 3 hours. I used to when I was
talk about that.
When I was struggling with food, my strategy, especially like right now, it's holiday season. So we've got all of these activities and things happening in the evening and dinners out. So my strategy at that point would have been like, I want to be able to eat whatever I want to eat tonight. So I'm going to eat like as little as I can during the day, or just really healthy. But that is a recipe for disaster for so many reasons. First of all, your body functions best when your blood sugar levels are stable. And so that kind of patterning allows your blood sugar levels to just tank. And when our blood sugar levels have tanked, our body is in an emergency state for food. So it wants the fastest burning sugars that it can possibly get, which is going to be like your white breads, your candies, your like sweet treats, none of which are bad. Those are foods that bring us a lot of joy and connection and things, but they're not the best for fueling your body and giving you energy that's going to allow you to show up for everything that you want to do really efficiently. So, what would happen in doing that is that I would then get to the dinner and I'd barely be able to focus on the conversation because my body and brain were like food. And then I would eat so much at that one time. It would often lead to binging and overeating because I'd ignored my body's hunger signals all day long. So when we've ignored our body's hunger and fullness signals for a long time, it just kind of stops giving them to us. And so I could never really tell, like, am I hungry? Am I not? Everything that I was eating was based on these rules that I had around food versus working with my body. Like, our bodies are born designed to help us survive. They come with hunger and fullness signals. We just have been taught to ignore those, or that our hunger and fullness is wrong, that we need to eat lunch at 12, even if we're hungry at 11, that we can't have that kind of food, even if we're craving it. there's just like, it's so messed up right now how and what we've been taught about our bodies and all of the ways we've been taught to ignore our hunger signals. If you're hungry, just chew gum. If you're hungry, just drink a glass of water. If you're hungry, chew on some lettuce. Like, no, if you're hungry, that's your body saying, I need fuel.
Right.
So I like when I'm hungry, even the littlest bit, I am grabbing a snack, I'm grabbing food, I'm making or prepping my next meal. And I think because of everything that I've gone through with food, I notice when I'm hungry and I don't address that, I get anxiety. Like my body starts to panic, even though it's been 20 years. So I'm just really on it with that. And everyone can find their hunger and fullness signals again. It's not that if your body stopped giving it to you or you're not able to hear those, that you can never get them back. It's actually pretty straightforward. But that's something where I would suggest working with a coach like me or a registered intuitive eating dietitian to be able to kind of get back to that place where you can trust your body and it can trust you.
So powerful. So powerful. And I think that regulating blood sugar is something that's not talked about enough. Like, probably in like the world that you're in, it is, but like, I think for everyday people that aren't, privy to like understanding how that works, or like, they just don't know, like, it's not something that we're necessarily educated on.
No, it's not talked about. It's not talked about in like Women's Health magazine or on various things, but it's kind of the basic fundamental of our overall wellness, in that it really helps us balance all of our chemicals. When those blood sugar levels are down, it's impacting every, hormonal response in our body and chemical response. It's impacting the way that we can think. It's impacting, like we've all experienced when you're really hungry and they say like you're hangry, it impacts your mood. Often we experience foggy thinking. It impacts our circulation. If you've ever had like cold hands or cold feet. So if you're not used to listening to those hunger and fullness signals, true hunger, it's a physical sensation in your body, like a grumbling tummy, foggy thinking, not able to focus, maybe a bit of a headache. All of those are louder signals that you're quite hungry. But the more you start to tune into your body, you'll be able to hear your hunger earlier. And so as soon as you hear it, you really want to be planning for food or nourishing your body and feeding it. And the more that you do that, then all of a sudden you start to find that you can actually hear when you're hungry as well. When you're full as well. And that's the piece I think that scares a lot of people, is like, I don't actually know when I'm full. If you told me that I could eat anything, and if I could just listen to my body, like I would just keep on eating forever. And that's not the case. As you start to eat intuitively and your body starts to trust that it's going to receive food consistently, when you're done and when you're full.
And I feel like your body probably responds really well. Like your body probably celebrates that about you. Like, yay, she's getting it. Like they're getting it.
Absolutely. Your body's on your team. It wants to work with you in order to really thrive and to be able to show up. Like your body wants to be healthy. We just have to work with our bodies to support it in getting there.
This is such a good episode, such a good talk, such good insights, and like really going back to basics. I did an episode recently that was like back to manifestation basics. And I feel like this is like back to the basics that are so like overlooked at times. And I just really appreciated this so much. Even for me, it's just good reminders, like good learning. So thank you so much.
Thanks so much for opening the door to have this conversation. And I really, truly hope that everybody who's listening right now can just take a big, deep breath and remember and recognize you're doing great. You are doing everything that you are meant to be doing. And we can layer on little bits and pieces here and there, but really, I think we've got to work on taking the pressure off and just simplifying as much as we can. So thinking perhaps in this moment, what's one thing that you want to work on this week that would feel really supportive to you? And that might actually mean doing less than what you're doing right now, or making more time for something you know will be the most supportive in this moment.
So good. So good. I have to ask you, because I ask everyone, what makes you, Erin, a badass manifester?
Oh, well, I mean, the fact that I manifested everything on that vision board that I created 15 years ago, I feel like that's pretty badass. And also, though, I want to say that I recognize now more than ever that, yes, I was working hard and hustling and conscious about my choices, but in the body that I'm in, with the skin color that I have, with the neighborhood and community that I grew up in, not that it was anything crazy, but being in Canada, there's a lot of safety and opportunity, and we get schools and stuff, that I have a lot of privilege as well that has opened doors and allowed me to manifest as well. And so I think that we all have the ability to create whatever we want in life. And at the same time, I just give a lot of, I don't know, I just want to recognize, I guess, that there's also a lot of privilege there as well, that has given me a bump up in being able to create that. And so I think for me, it's that knowing is one of the reasons why it's so important to me to always make sure that our courses and the work that I'm doing is accessible to individuals who, you know, are at all levels of income and in all spaces. I want Raw Beauty Co. to feel inclusive and welcoming. And I want to be able to use my gifts and this beautiful life that I have to support others.
I absolutely love that you said that. Because I think it's mostly unsaid, that people don't recognize their privilege, and really appreciate that about you. And based on like your Instagram and everything that you share, like you are super inclusive, and I feel that from what you have put out. So thank you. Thank you so much for sharing that. Thank you for being on the show. Let's share with everyone where they can find you, how they can connect with you, join your course, all the things.
You can find me on Instagram at Raw Beauty Talks with an S, or head on over to our website, rawbeauty.co.
Amazing. Thank you.
That was so fun. I always love these conversations. Just fills me right up.
Me too. All right, everyone. See you next week. Bye. Woo. We did some work today. Thank you so much for listening. You know I love my BAM fam. If this episode resonated with you, please share it with someone who you know would love it too, because we live for the ripple effect over here. And how can you best support the show? Make sure you're subscribed, hit the 5 stars, and leave a review on iTunes, and let me know how the podcast has impacted you. I love being part of your real-time journey, so screenshot the episode and tag me and my guests on Instagram at Manifest with Ash. Now say it with me. I am my own power source. I am the master of my own energy, and I deserve everything that I desire. We don't just talk about it over here, we be about it. Now go get 'em.